On behalf of the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee, ICI, we welcome all the participants in the today's webcast, Thinking Through the Box. We welcome to today's resource person, CA Meenakshi Sundaram, and other present over here. I request CA Meenakshi Sundaram to put his video on. CA Meenakshi Sundaram is a chartered accountant and management accountant with over 25 years of experience in handling the management accounting, finance, taxation, and HR. He has served as a chairperson Bahrain chapter of ICI for the term of 2014 and 15. He is a Maxwell Leadership Certified Trainer, speaker, and coach, Maxwell Certified Behavioral Analysis Trainer in February 2018. CA Meenakshi addressed a gathering of 2,500 John Maxwell trainer in Orlando, Florida. With the grand applause, we welcome to CA Meenakshi Sundaram in this webcast. CA Meenakshi Sundaram is no doubt is that one is particularly he has taken many sessions in our professional skills enrichment platform, so that we once again glad to introduce you in this webcast for another time. So that with this we welcome to CA Meenakshi Sundaram, and I am handing over the session to CA Meenakshi Sundaram for further proceeding. Over to CA Meenakshi Sundaram.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sambit Kumar Mishra. It's always a pleasure to speak to fellow chartered accountants, and I want to place my gratitude again for the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee. I hope I'm audible. I just want to confirm before I proceed further.
Perfectly audible.
Yeah. So my gratitude to the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee for giving me this opportunity and continuing this wonderful initiative. It's been 2 years, and it's actually benefiting a lot of our members. Thank you for that. Let me share the screen, then we'll go into today's topic. Yeah, so today's topic is thinking through the box. Now, you may be wondering what is the thinking through the box? We have heard of think outside the box, which is one thing that's generally discussed at length in different forums, and it's something that is attached to thinking. So what is thinking through the box? That's something that maybe you're all thinking in your mind. Let me share the agenda for today. What is that I'm going to cover? So first we will discuss about thinking in general. What are the factors that influence our thinking, and what are different styles of thinking? Then we discuss about thinking inside a box, followed by thinking outside the box, and then thinking through the box. We'll conclude with summary. This is the agenda for today. So first I want to start with this statement. Thinking is a skill. Now, thought is random. Thought occurs, we are not in control of the thoughts that comes in our mind. Though most of the thought comes from what we know, what we experience, but a thought that occurs in our mind is not in our control. But thinking is deliberate. A thought occurs, we decide whether we want to focus on it or not. We want to pursue the thought or not. And the moment we decide to pursue the thought, we start thinking why it happened and what is that thought means to us. What do you want to do with the thought? So that thinking is deliberate. And thinking, I want to say, is a skill, because each and every one, we can work on the way we want to think about every situation in our life. Thinking need not be automatic. Thought can be automatic, but thinking is deliberate, and it is a skill we can all develop and work on it. And I want to start with this statement. What influences our thinking? We talk about thinking, what makes us think the way we think? Why it is essential for to understand is because once we understand this, then we can expand it, we can enhance it, we can improve it. First and foremost, there are different factors, but I'm going to cover a few factors. One factor I want to touch upon is our belief system. A belief system again is formed based on our own experiences, the lessons that we take from that. Now, that belief system influences the way we are going to think in every situation. Let me give you an example. I was in grade 1 when my mom put me in a school annual function. It's a fancy dress competition. I was supposed to speak 4 lines. I couldn't utter a single word. I was standing there staring at the audience, trying hard to control the tears that was flowing from my cheek. Now, that experience made me believe that I am not meant for speaking. Public speaking is not a no-no for me. It took me almost 18 years to even question that thought. So the next opportunity that I took to speak in front of public was in my college. But I failed again. But that was the time the belief was getting again reiterated that, yeah, it is not for me. Until the professor called me and told that you failed because you did not practice. Speaking is a skill, you have to practice. Now that knowledge opened up. So belief system is what one aspect that influences our thinking. The second aspect is a knowledge. What we read, what we hear, what we listen, what we watch. Today, of course, most of us gain our knowledge through reels or YouTube videos. So what we watch, what we observe, all of it forms our ideas in our mind and then form basis on which we are going to think about every situation. The knowledge that comes into our mind opens up our mind. Like that information my professor gave to me, that speaking is a skill and you have to practice, I practice. It took me another 18 years to become a decently spoken person on stage. But then it's a practice. So the knowledge changed my belief. So knowledge, what you read, what you listen to, all of it plays a role. I want to add one particular quote from Bill Gates from his recent book. He says, each bit of knowledge I accrued added to a sense of empowerment, the feeling that by applying my brain, I could solve even the world's complex mysteries. Now, that's what a knowledge can do to you. It will give you empowerment. It will open up your mind. So that's the second aspect that influences our thinking. The third aspect is connection, how we connect things. That's how we learn. As a child, we look at our parents switching off a button, and then suddenly a light appears. And then our mind connects these two. So we connect things. So connection. And as a CA, we are all trying to connect so many factors in our life. When you go through accounts, when you go through your business reports, you're trying to connect various aspects and then analyze. So connection is another one. The other factor that I want to add upon today is curiosity, experimenting with things. Well, curiosity is the bedrock of every innovation. If not for curiosity, we will not have got so many things that we are having today. So curiosity is one thing that take us forward. Now, talking about curiosity, I can give an example. As a CA, we all have come across situations where we see one transaction and suddenly something appears in us, and then we started questioning it. We get curious about the transaction. We go in deep. Probably we may find out a fraud, or maybe we understand the whole process through that curiosity. So we have all experienced it actually. So curiosity is another factor that influences the way we are going to think. Last but not the least, the most important factor again is our mentor. Now, mentor plays a huge role in the way we are going to shape our thinking. As a CA, when you go into articleship, the CA or firm or the person on whom we are working, they actually throw us into situations, guide us to find solutions, and thus shaping the way we think through a situation. A good mentor can enhance our thinking process. And I would recommend that try to have mentors from different field, not just from our own field. Probably have a mentor from someone in a physics background or engineering background, a CEO, because each of them can come with different perspectives and that will expand the way we think. So this is what I want to cover before we go into the topic, because thinking is the bedrock. Thinking is actually the basics of the entire discussion that we are going to have today. One more aspect that I have not put in this slide, but I want to give it to you all to keep in your mind is mindset. Your mindset also influences in a big way. If your mindset is positive, then when you face a situation, you will try to find possible solutions. But if your mindset is negative, you will try to avoid the situation. So think about this also. Keep what is your mindset at this point of time. It's not necessary that you will be positive all the time. Sometimes it can be negative. Sometimes it is good to be negative. But mindset plays a role in the way you handle a situation, the way you think through a solution. These are styles of thinking. Not that everyone thinks the same format, but most of us at some point of time would have applied one of these styles in our life. Verbal thinking is someone who would like to think out loud. Every thought that comes to their mind, they think out loud. All of us would have done it at least sometime whenever we are alone. Maybe we used to do that. Not that everyone has to do it, but yes. So that's one style of thinking. The other style is visual thinking. Visual thinking is where people have everything planned in their mind. The way they see things is like the way it is going to happen. For example, if someone is thinking of how they are going to discuss an issue with their boss, in their mind, they will be thinking how they are walking into the room, how the boss is sitting, and how the boss is responding. So everything actually comes out in a visual format. Again, some of us would have done sometimes, but there are some people who do it all the times. Emotional thinking may sound like oxymoron because emotion and thinking going together. Yes, because every thought, if you add emotion, you become an emotional thinker. So that also happens depending on situations. Most of us, not that all of us are emotional. Some of us are emotional. Some of us are emotional all the time. Some of us emotional in situations. So it all depends. The last one is abstract thinking. Like today's topic, for example, it doesn't give you a clear-cut idea, but it takes you through and give you an abstract view of what you can expect. So abstract thinking. There are a lot of abstract thinkers who has actually they are the ones who have come out with a lot of great ideas also. So abstract thinking also is a very unique style. So these are different styles of thinking. Now that I've given you the basic about thinking, let's get into the topic. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is think inside a box. Now it may appear that think inside a box. People may think, no, this is actually something that's very old, it's dogmatic. It is conventional, of course, yes. But again, even think inside a box is innovative. It is not something that you can say as no, it's not very innovative. No, it is also innovative actually. I'll give you examples. I'll show you why it is innovative. The premise that follows in think inside a box as a theory is that all you need to solve a problem lies within the box. Wherever the problem is existing, in the same environment, a solution also is existing. And the resources you need to solve the problem. All you need is to rearrange it or look differently. This is the whole assumption or premise behind the this theory of think inside a box. Let us see what are all there inside a box. You see the problem, because that's what we are going to think through. So the problem is in a box. But you also see the framework, the rules, because the box gives you the limited, the boundaries within which you have to play around. The framework is given to you, the rules are given to you. Box also gives you limitations, because you can't exceed a particular thing. You have to play within a boundary. You have resource constraints, because what is inside the box is what is inside the box. Resources, there are resources available within the box. And finally, you will find a solution. So this is the concept of think inside a box. If I were to give one example, I'll say our Indian philosophy itself is like think inside a box. Because what it says is that in this life, whatever you have to find within yourself. Your improvement, your development, everything starts with you. So you look inside deeper to you, you will be able to polish yourself and improve yourself, improve your thinking and grow as a person. So that is also think inside a box theory, kind of, isn't it? Again, pre-globalization, India, if you take before 90s, when they decided to go for globalization. But before that, if you look at India was like closed state. So whatever problems that India was facing, India has to solve within itself. So most of the issues that we have solved thinking inside a box. And we had fantastic ideas. Like you talk about green revolution, talk about white revolution, all of it came within our own country, within our box, and we found the solution, isn't it? So I want to give two examples just to reiterate the point. One, irrigation. You don't have enough resources, but you have water flowing and you have a bottle. You're using it to irrigate your garden. So this is actually inside a box. It's most like jugaad, Indian terms. Mangalyaan also, I will say, kind of inside a box, because there are a lot of constraints, limitations, resource limitations, funding limitations. But with all of it, they could achieve something that every other country had to have a huge budget. So the innovation happened because of the limitations. So that is thinking inside a box. I want to specifically touch upon the rules, because generally people will think when you want to have innovative ideas, you have to break the rules. Not necessarily. In fact, even if you want to break the rules, you should know the rules first. Without knowing the rules, you cannot break the rules. And as a chartered accountants, we all know the importance of rules. We are designed to learn the rules and follow the rules. So we know the importance of rules. One example I want to give for that is gravity and flight. Only when we understood the gravity completely, we were able to find a way of going ahead of gravity, and we were able to come out with the flight. So without understanding gravity, flight would have not happened actually. So that's why rules are also sometimes trigger for us to innovate. Another example I want to give is Netherlands, which is below sea level, and the challenge they have is water. And they were able to manage the water. They were able to find out solutions within themselves. And today they are kind of leaders in terms of building these dams, dikes, sluices, and barriers to avoid storms. So sometimes within a box, you'll be able to come out with brilliant innovations. So that is the first concept that we're talking about, think inside a box. Now, what we can do? That's the question, isn't it? Yes, concept is good. How can I apply? I'll give you a few pointers which you can keep in your mind when you want to apply these concepts in your life. One is subtraction. Like what can be achieved by removing something? Simply by removing certain things, you can completely modify and change something in your life, change something in concept. For example, like Apple. Apple always has the concept of minimalization. Apple's designs are simple. They don't want to complicate things. They want to keep it simple. So they don't want to add more and more things to it. So that's one way of looking at it, subtracting, taking off things to making it simple and easy so that it can work better. Division. Cutting the problem into smaller segments. This is actually a part of every problem solving. When you get to a problem, you try to see if you can segment it out and then delegate to people. Now, that's in leadership, in management. But in thinking also, you try to see if you can divide the problems in multiple segments, and thus you can come out with some different ideas. That's what Surface, Microsoft Surface is all about. Microsoft Surface, what they did, they removed the keyboard, only monitor. And keyboard, if you want, you can buy. So that's one way of handling a situation. So divide. The third aspect that comes into picture is multiplication. What you can multiply. Like for example, doubling battery life. That's what most of the mobile phone people are doing now. Battery life, or even laptops and all this. They're trying to do. They're trying to increase the battery life so that the convenience of the customers are addressed in a way. Increasing camera quality. So these are few areas, few examples for multiplication. So what you can multiply the same resource, you can use it multiple times and increase the output. Task unification. What you can combine. The same different process that is happening in your own within the box. If you can combine 2-3 processes and try to see if you can come out with something different. And that's what air purifier has done. Basically, they combine both heating and cooling in one equipment. So that's a task unification. The last one is called attribute dependency. Now, each process that is involved, they're all dependent on each other. Not necessarily that everything depends on each other, but there will be processes that will have a dependency on one or two. What you're looking at is trying to see if you can change the dependency or make it independent, a different tryouts. So one of the options is like the Viper is a good example. Viper used to operate based on manual switch. And then they worked out the way of making the Viper work based on the strength of the rain. There's a force, the force of the rain is going up, the speed of the Viper also goes up. So that's a dependency. And that dependency is actually even a new product. This for the customers, it makes them more happy. So you're trying to come out with ideas that can work out within the same situation, same environment. What else you can do to come out with different options? So these are the things that comes into picture, and this is what you can do if you want to apply think inside a box. These are some techniques that you can apply in your life. In fact, there is one more theory that is called TRIZ. It's a Russian technique. They have come out with some 40 parameters how to solve any situation, any problem within a box. So that's something that you can try it out. You can check in the internet and learn more about it. I have not added it here because it's very complicated to explain. So that's also a technique that you can use for thinking inside a box. So that takes us to the next topic, which is think outside a box. This is actually discussed about, people have been making presentations. There is a huge cry about it. It all started in 1970. And where it started actually with this. Most of you would have seen this. Those who have not seen it, probably you can try it out. What you have to do is you have to draw a line connecting all the dots without taking the pen out or pencil out and without overlapping the lines. So that's a challenge. Now, if you want to try now, you can give a try. I will probably give few seconds just for you to give a try, and then I'll give a solution. So this is actually something that the management consultants in US, they thought about it and they use this as an example. And this is where exactly the name also came out of this particular example. I will show you that. I think I've given you a few seconds probably for you to try it out. So let me go with the solution. Now, what they have done is when you're looking at the left side figure, it looks like a box. And you want to solve within that box, you will not be able to solve it. So you have to remove the imaginary box from your mind, and then you find a solution. So that is exactly, I think outside the box concept came into picture. The box, the framework is good. It actually forces you to innovate, no doubt about it. But many a times it is a constraint that you can easily overcome and come out with different ideas. So outside the box, sometimes not, in many situations, you may have to use outside the box to get a different solution. So again, I said this 1970s, it all started. It is innovative and unconventional because you are taking the box out of your mind. You are now free to think whatever solution you want to think. And it's open environment for exploring new ideas. So this is actually the premise of this concept, thinking outside the box. It's also called lateral thinking. There are a lot of examples that you can find for you to do lateral thinking. Again, the question comes, how do you can think outside the box? What are things that you can do? Is there techniques that you can use? I just want to give few aspects that you can consider, which will help you to think outside the box, which with some examples also to reiterate the learning. So there are 5 points I want to cover. One is challenging assumptions, because what happens in many situations, we assume things. And this assumption is like an imaginary box controlling our thought process. So we have to challenge the assumptions. Is it right? In fact, as a chartered accountants, we all know about the assumptions. If there is a forecast that is being given to us, the first thing that we ask is, what are the assumptions based on which this forecast is made? The company is going to make so much profit the next 1 year. So what are the factors they are considering, the assumptions they have made? Maybe they are thinking that the economy is going to grow at particular percentage. The demand for this product is going to grow because probably there is a import restrictions. So these are all the assumptions that they put in coming out with the different forecasts. So that we are all trained to ask the question. We challenge the assumptions that way. So we have to make it as a practice to challenge assumptions in each and every aspect. Moment you go into an audit or you go into a situation, you go look at a process, why the process is designed in a particular way. Our mind would want to assume things because mind don't want to work extra hours. It want to take rest. So it just want to give you some solution and make you happy. So there is a process that's going on. Your mind will immediately give a map of what's happening. This is how it is going on. And you will be like, yes, fine. But the moment you stop and ask question like, why it is happening this way? Why not any other way? So what is making them to do this? Instead of assuming that they are doing this because this is what is giving the result. Yes, of course it is giving the result, but what else they can do? So you have to challenge the assumption. So that is very, very critical for out of the box thinking. In fact, critical thinking starts from the question, why? So challenge the assumptions. Every assumptions you start challenging. The assumptions that others are making, assumptions that you are making. The most difficult thing is assumptions that you are making. To understand that it is an assumption itself will take time for you. You have to think a lot to know that, yes, this is the assumption I am making. Because the brain is being, mind is a bit lazy. It will make you appear like as if it is a concrete process. No, you are actually assuming things. So you have to take a pause and question. Others' assumptions easy to ask. Your own assumptions, first difficult to find, understand that is an assumption. So you have to pause and think through that. The second is question limitations. Like limitations, in many cases, there is a constraint. It is given. Now, is this constraint real? Can it be overcome? Is there any rule that stops us from trying something different to overcome the limitations? Questions. If we don't ask the question, we accept the limitation as it is. Yeah, this is the limitation. We have to live within it. Then we will find solutions. I'm not saying no. But in most situations, we will learn to live with the limitation rather than trying to have a freedom of choice. We tend to accept the limitation and go with it. This can be applied in different multiple levels. For example, even as an employee of a company, you look at situation and say, okay, the company is not giving me increment. I can't go out because the market is bad. These are all the limitations that you are assuming and posting yourself. So question everything. So question limitations, especially if you are looking at a problem. What are the limitations that is actually looking at? What are the constraints that actually being imposed upon? Is it real? Is it imaginary? Can it be changed? These are the questions that we should ask. Seek diverse perspectives. This is very, very critical. And it not only for thinking outside the box. I would say as a human, for you to grow, you have to seek diverse perspectives. You have to read a lot of book. You have to listen to different perspectives, not just your own idea of this is what the life is, this is what the world is. Ask questions. Find out, seek out. That is going to expand your thinking. The way you are going to handle a situation, the way you're going to handle people, everything is going to change. In fact, the way you're going to treat yourself is going to change. So seek diverse perspectives. So think outside the box also gives you this idea that you have to look into multiple perspectives, not just your own perspective. This is where what happens, you have a problem in your own box. Now, when you look into the different boxes, probably you will get different ideas. Maybe someone has already solved it for a different industry. Only when you seek out, you will know. So seek different perspectives. That's going to help you to solve your own problem and expand your mind and think differently. Reframe the problem. This is a very fantastic point. This is not just for the thinking outside the box or problem solving. This is for even personally, for you to handle a situation, you have to reframe the problem. Many times we assume that someone is probably dealing with us from a negative point of view. So, for example, I had a colleague with whom it was difficult to deal. So I was always, there was an issue that I had to talk to him and solve it, but I always thought that no, this person is impossible to discuss. Now my boss asked me to reframe the problem. The problem is not discussing with that person. The problem is to solve a situation. So for that, what you should do? So then I changed my perspective. I said, I have to go and sit with him so that we both of us can understand this problem rather than me trying to understand how he is going to handle the problem, what we can do with this problem. And that opened up my mind. I went in a more positive frame of mindset to handle that issue. And of course, we were able to come out with the problem, the problem solution for the problem. So reframe the problem. That's another aspect that is going to help you think outside the box. What else attitude? What else we can do? Every situation, you always have multiple solutions, multiple pathways to approach. Most occasions we will think that, oh, this is where you have to go. There is no other option. No, there are always options. It's just that we have to have the attitude towards that. And personally, if you ask me, most of it gets solved by one thing. It all depends on our energy level. If you're able to sustain energy, we'll be able to think. If you're tired at the end of the day and the problem comes to you, you are not going to look at all these things. You're not going to even say, what else I can do? No, you just want to shut down and leave. So that's again a personal growth point of view. But what else attitude? Every situation you can ask the question, what else I can do, or what else we can do? What else is there that I should check if you're doing an audit? Or what else I should consider? These are the different questions that you can put from what else attitude point of view. So this is a framework for us to implement, think outside the box in our own life. Let me give some examples. Like challenge assumptions, that's what we have seen. You have to challenge the assumptions. And I want to give an example. It's always been thought that to fry any dish, anything that you want to fry, you have to use oil. That is the basic, So everyone assumes that oil is important for frying. So that's why if you look at all the products that were manufactured, were only manufactured based on oil consumption. That assumption was questioned, and that's how this air fryer came into existence. So air fryer is basically you are going to fry without using oil. Simple, isn't it? So new product came into existence just by challenging the assumption that you need oil, not required. Why we need oil? So that challenge came with this product. Next one, question limitations. There are multitude of examples, but I want to take example of Tesla. Like every car manufacturer who went into EV manufacturing, the constraint that they were facing is availability of battery, because battery was always produced by someone else. Now, Tesla is the first company to go forward and say, okay, we will manufacture battery within ourselves, so that that doesn't become a limitation for us. So what is the limitation, and see what we can do for it. The question of the limitation. So Tesla actually changed the perspective there, and they were able to come on. Today, of course, every battery manufacturing company in China, if you look at everyone, they have their own battery manufacturing setup, and that is actually giving them the strength in the market. Reframe the problem. Again, another Elon Musk company. Every organization, like we talk about ISRO or not ISRO, NASA, or the other Western organizations, they were worried about one thing, or they were working on one thing, just to reduce the cost of the rockets that's being sent out. Now, what did Elon Musk do? He reframed the problem. He was not looking at the cost of the rocket. He said, is there anything we can do to reuse the rocket? Now that completely changed, because once you can reuse it, then the cost becomes minimal, because you will be using it multiple times. So the cost per trip comes down, and it becomes a different problem altogether. It's not the cost minimization. So reframe the problem. If you had to consider in our own field, if you look at cost cutting, you will go and find ways and means of cost cutting. But if you look for cost optimization, you will look at ways and means of utilizing whatever is already available in a better way to improve the efficiency. So cost cutting immediately means you are going to find where all we can remove it. Optimization, you're going to find where all we can do better, improve the efficiency, improve the utilization of a particular asset to get better return. So same topic, but the way you are going to present the problem, it's going to completely change. And this is something that most often used in negotiation techniques. When you are going to go for negotiation, instead of asking the question that, like, instead of looking from the cost point of view, if you can look from the point of view of how it can benefit both of us. One thing that I can remember as an example is, instead of going for a penalty, for example, if you say that there is a project and there is a project guidelines, or there your timelines to finish the project, and you come out with a penalty clause which says that if you don't finish the project by so and so date, will start applying penalties. Now, the same one I noticed in another company where I worked, they changed the concept. Instead of penalty, they put it as a bonus. What they did is the same cost, but they said, this is the amount we will pay to you for the project. And we will pay to you if you finish the project within the time. And the bonus amount differs based on the timeline. So if you finish within the time what is agreed, you get the full bonus. But if you take 1 week, it comes down. So it's the same thing actually, it's penalty, but changed as bonus. Then what happened was it actually made the other person feel so positive about the project, and they were actually working towards getting the bonus. Rather than working with the fear of getting the penalty, they were working with a positive attitude towards gaining the bonus. So that made a huge difference actually. So reframe the problem. That's also a concept. Yes, so Elon Musk is one example. Other example is the vertical farming. Now, in many countries now, if you look at the only thing that you can't produce more is land, isn't it? So people can actually reclaim the sea and get the land available. But again, fertile land is always a challenge. So that's a limitation. How do you overcome it? Vertical farming. So when you question the limitation, and you'll get a different solution. So vertical farming completely takes you out of that limitation of land being not available more than what is there. So these are two examples I want to give you for reframing the problem. What else attitude is something that I discussed about. One person or one company I can give as an example is Apple. So they have combined 3 products. So they have computer, they have the iPhone, iPod, the music players, and they want to bring phone. So they just combined all 3, and then the smartphone was born, and that completely changed the way we deal with information today, isn't it? So what else we can do? This is one example I thought I will put from my side. Maybe you can think of more examples from your side. What is not out of box thinking? Or rather, I just want to give one example. Yeah, this is also out of box thinking, but not necessarily that is going to help anyone actually. So I just thought I will just bring some humor for the presentation. So that brings us to the topic that we have discussed. We have covered think inside the box, we have covered think outside the box. Now, let's touch upon think through the box. Now, it's something that I have been thinking about it for quite some time. That, in fact, if you can't think through the box, you will not be able to achieve whether in the box or out of the box. Both is not possible. So think through the box that way is actually a kind of all encompassing. It covers all the points that we already discussed and much more. So the first thing that I want to touch upon is think outside, think through the box. You should be aware of the box completely. What is inside the box, what is not in the box, what else you can do with the box. So that awareness is critical. Now, think through the box means you can expand the box. It is not that the box is limiting. In fact, the box can be expanded. That's a concept that I want to add as think through the box. Now, think through the box again, you can take from one box to another. In fact, think outside the box also we discussed that taking from another box. But here, from your box to which other box you can take it forward. So that's another concept under think through the box. And most importantly, all the boxes are interconnected. Now, we are thinking only from one box, then we are not going to realize it. But as we come to as we grow, as we realize that, we will know that the boxes are in fact interconnected. In fact, boxes are actually in continuum. So this I can say like a concept, infinite game, similar concept. So I'll start with expand the box. Now, when you are doing something in a particular field, and that field is what you can actually use to do something different. That's where this expand the box concept comes into picture. So you should be able to know you have expertise in your own field, but that expertise also can be used in some other place, and you are expanding the box. So the good example I can talk about for this is Amazon Web Services. See, the AWS, in fact, Amazon, most of the business Amazon is doing is all started for, one or other they started, and then they started expanding it. Like AWS is something that they developed in-house for their own business first, and then they started expanding it. So every business Amazon does is, Amazon is basically a company that focuses on efficiency. Everywhere they look for efficiency. They are actually in the business of efficiency, if you ask me. So they look at one particular thing, which they want to do it with the most efficient manner, and then make it as a business. That's how Amazon has been doing. So they just keep expanding the box. So there is one box which needs something. So you do it at the best possible way, and you know you are the best in that. And then you realize that you can, in fact, use that to expand your box. So that's the first thing, expanding the box. One box to another. This is actually reverse. See, in think outside the box, you are looking for a solution from different box that you can apply in your own box. But here you are looking for something in your box you found out, and that you look and see where else you can apply this and take to another box. So if I have to give an example for this, penicillin. Now, penicillin, it was not actually, the research was not initially done to find penicillin. It was done for something else. And because there was vacation time, he went back, he came back and he found there was a mold that is formed across the table, except in some places. And that curiosity of what is it triggered, and that led to find penicillin. So you have something in your box which is completely not relevant for your box, but it's relevant for some other box. So you connect that box. So that's one box to another. There are different examples. Penicillin is an example, right? We can talk about humpback whale. And they found, it has got a particular structure in its wings that's actually giving it speed, agility. And this is an information available only in marine science. And that was taken out, applied in different fields. Skateboards, they are doing skateboards with the same model. They've got wind turbines, which is applying the same logic, so that the efficiency of the wind turbine actually goes up extraordinarily, exponentially. Even aircraft wings, they are now trying to see if they can use it. The research is going on in this aspect. So one box you find information and you try to use it in multiple boxes. So one box to another. This is again another example of same similar one. This is actually being, there is a problem that they were working on is to find a glue that is strong. And what was the result of the research? What did they come out with? They came out with a glue that was not even sticking things properly. And that's how the stick it note came out actually. So it's the solution, the problem is in one box, but the solution is for another box completely. But your mind is open. You are curious to see what it is and what I can do with this. That leads you to a different business altogether, a different place where you can use it altogether. So that is another example for it. An example where failure to apply the correct box. If I had to give, I'll say Kodak, because for all you know, Kodak is the first company to have a digital camera. They had their expertise, they had the research, they had the product in their hand. For various reasons, they were not able to apply it to the right box. Whatever reason, you can go and find out. It may be because they had the fear of losing the existing business, or they had not very sure about how to do it, whatever it is. They failed to apply this to a correct box. Had they done it, probably they would have still been there in some way or other. Today, product is still there, but in a different business altogether. So this is an example for how someone failed to apply to the correct box. The next concept I discussed about is all boxes are interconnected. Now, in a grand way of things, if you look at, it is always a fact that something happens in one place, somehow has got a connection in another place. Within if you're talking about manufacturing setup, every process is connected actually. If you talk about business, every process is connected in some way or other. So one place something happens, it is going to have a different impact in different places. So understanding that is very critical for us. So similarly, what is happening in one place can have an impact in a completely different place. So knowing that is going to help you to use it in a better way, either for your business or for your personal or for benefit of humanity. It all depends. So one example that we can talk about in one box, the interconnected boxes are basically transistor. If you look at transistor is an amazing thing that has happened first, because this is where the miniaturization of circuits, the circuits were able to make it smaller. And that triggered so many products. If not for that, probably we will not be having all the products. It will eventually happen, but see, transistor triggered. So laptops, for example, what I am presenting today, what you're watching, all these happen because of the transistor. Mobile phones, hearing aids, and even MRI. So this is an example of how one solution in one place can trigger different innovations in different places. So the boxes are actually connected. Maybe we are not aware of it. We don't know it now. But think the possibility. Having the possibility in mind that this is connected to something else is always going to force you to think through and see what else we can do with this. So that brings me to where we started actually. We discussed about think through the box, think inside the box, think outside the box. Now, how is it all connecting to what we started bringing the way we are going to think? Because what we believe is what is going to help us in doing what we want to do. So our belief, our personal experiences, most of the innovations, for example, came out of personal experience. For example, there's a camera that was the instant camera, the first instant camera, that came out based on a personal experience the inventor had with his daughter. The daughter asked the question that we take a picture, why we have to wait for 1 week? Because those days it used to be film. You have to take a picture, you have to wait for the film to get over, and then once all the rolls are completely taken, then you have to take it to a film processor. They will take few days to process and then print the photographs. So it's a long drawn process actually. So the daughter asked a question: why can't we get the photo instantly? Now that triggered. It's a trigger for him. He went back, he started working on it, and then came out with the first instant camera. So our personal experiences leads us to what we want to do. Our beliefs. We want to help someone and we work on it. For example, there used to be the prostate legs. These are again, people want to help. So that's a belief. So that is what is helping, pushing them to invent things that can actually help people. So our beliefs comes in a big way in how we think and what we want to do with our thinking. Whether think inside the box, outside the box, or think through the box. The first thing is our beliefs is going to impact it similarly. Our knowledge. As I said, Bill Gates became Bill Gates because he believed in what he read. He said, when I read, my mind expands and I know that I can, if I put my effort, I can solve every possible problems. So the knowledge is going to take you through the journey. The knowledge that there is a way in which we can bring back the rocket was what pushed Elon Musk to work on it. So having a diverse, different, you read different books, that's going to expand your mind. And it's going to give you the possibility of thinking one particular problem from multitude of directions or fields and all the angles. So, and especially today, for example, as a chartered accountant, if you are working in any field, not only you should know about the field, but also you should know about what is happening in every other field, because it's changing vastly. Today, most of it is now platform, artificial intelligence. So things that we don't even know, which was there a few years back, has come into existence, and that is completely changing the perspective of what is happening in our own field. So unless we gain the knowledge, we put effort to know and see how we can use it in our own domain and expand our domain, expand our thinking. So knowledge becomes critical aspect, and that is going to make you think in different directions. Connections. How are we able to connect things? If you are not able to connect between the hump whales, wings of hump whale to the efficiency of wind turbines, today that the improved efficiency would not been there. The windmills were able to produce more wind power because of that one knowledge, one connection that they're able to make. So think through the box is basically think through the boxes. How can we connect different boxes, the domain knowledge in different boxes, and try to get the best in each box? So connection becomes a critical aspect. Then comes the curiosity. Like every place, if you see, curiosity is what actually triggered innovations. Right from penicillin, where he was working on a particular solution, but then an accident happened, and that led him to understand why some places the mold was not developing and some places it was developing. That led to penicillin, and the whole world benefit out of it actually. So curiosity, that's a bedrock, and that's something that's, if you have to think through different boxes, you have to have curiosity to know where else this can impact, what else I can do with this particular solution, which other people I can impact with this solution. So that's the next aspect, of course, is the mentor, Right, I have mentors from different areas, try and learn from every possible person, because each one have a different experience, diverse experience, different perspective, and we can learn from all of it. And if you are open, if you are open minded, and not only that, when we listen to different perspective, different people, we will be able to see what we can do with our knowledge in their domain, what we can do with their knowledge in our domain, and such way we can have a good collaboration and improve both the domains. Each of us can improve. So that's the whole idea of this. So mentoring is another aspect that we have to link back. But I touched upon the value. So value becomes a critical aspect in our growth as a person who we are. We can come out with solutions, but where we are going to use the solution is going to be applied depends on who we are as a person. As a person, are we interested in enhancing the societal benefit? Are we interested only in personal benefit? For example, if you are a person who is interested in preserving the natural environment, then everything that you think through, every solution you want to do or every business you want to do, you'll always keep one aspect in a way that this business or this process what you're going to adapt gives back to the nature, doesn't really hamper the nature. The nature preservation becomes a kind of a part goal in each of your activity. So what is that you are valuing? Like some people, for example, value their friends. Friendship is what they consider. So they can do anything for friendship. So every decision they take stems from how the people are going to be impacted. So what is that you value is going to reflect in each of the decisions that you're going to take and how it is going to impact the world. And I also talked about mindset, because mindset is very, very critical in anything we do. Not that we can be positive all the time. It is impossible. I can preach about positivity, but will I be positive in every situation in life? Doubtful. But the effort we have to put in to take it one notch further. Today, if I am say 50% positive, probably 1 year down the line, I should be at least 55% positive. So in handling situations, if there are 10 different situations in a day, if I am able to handle it, at least 6 of it in a positive manner, I think I have improved. So that's how we have to keep ourselves and move forward. So mindset plays a major role in whatever we do, whatever we think. And again, thinking is a skill. We have to put our effort in developing it. There are a lot of lateral thinking exercises available in the internet. You can actually go and check for yourself. You can pick up some of these activities and try and work around. Think. Look into yourself why you are thinking about a particular thought. That's how you refine yourself. So these are the aspects that comes into picture. So I've covered how we think influence our decisions. So watch all your thoughts. So thoughts are random, but thinking is deliberate. What thought you are going to pick up to think, why you are going to think on it, think about it. And every problem that comes into your table, look from every possible angle, not just from how I want to solve the problem somehow, how I can solve the problem that I can actually benefit every stakeholders involved in the problem. So if you have resource limitations, think inside the box, what you can do with what is available best. So think inside the box. I have given you the list of things that you can do to think inside the box. Think outside the box if it is possible. Always try and see what else you can do. What are all the assumptions that you are taking? What are the limitations that you are considering as limitations and which you can easily overcome? Seek diverse perspectives. These are the steps that we have understood. And finally, think through the box. Think through the box is where you understand not only the box that you are dealing in, but also getting an idea of different boxes and how one box can impact the other box. At the end of the day, we are all living in this world. In a way, actually, if you look at whatever thinking we do in this box, and also this world as a box. So we have to solve all the problems in this box. But at the same time, we are also think what else we can do to solve these problems. So that's why I think outside the box comes into picture, and think through the box is going to help us to connect different boxes. And then finally, I said, who we are decides how we think. For example, I talked about few examples, but if you are, for example, if you are into humanitarian services, you will try to find every solution that's possible that will help humanity. If you are, for example, I think the Reliance, if I remember, when they introduced they introduced the CDMA phone. The idea that they gave was that they want to give at 5 rupees or something was the amount. I don't remember the amount now, because they want to make it easily available for every person. Because Dhirubhai Ambani felt that when he suffered in the beginning, he don't want people to suffer for connections, people to talk to people. So they should be able to connect with people easily. So you want to give it at a lowest cost. So it's its own value. Now you can question that with different other angles, but a simple one value statement that actually gave CDMA phone at a very affordable price for millions of Indians at that point of time. But today, of course, everything is available at a very economically priced these things because of the competition and whatever is not. But those days, it's a different scenario. So that's one example of how one value can actually decide what you want to do with what you have, whatever you are thinking, the solution that you're going to have. That brings us to the end of my presentation. So if there are any questions, I can take it now. Yeah, thinking through the box applies to CA only or any other person. In fact, thinking through the box as a concept is applicable for every person. Because see, if you leave if you're in a working environment, you're going to think through how it applies, whatever you're doing in your own domain is impacting every other domain, and trying to find way of connecting. If you do one thing here, and if whether the same process can be applied in different places. So it can be used in every field. As a person also, if you talk about as a person also, you are doing something and you benefit out of it. Like you use a particular service. What you're going to do, you're going to call people and tell, this is what I use and I really got the benefit. This is very economical, or maybe the value for money. So you're going to recommend it actually. So that's also kind of thinking through the box, because you're trying to get the benefit to multiple people. So that's also thinking through box. In the workplace, yes, you can think of whatever you are benefiting, whatever you have solved in your domain. If the same thing can be applied, or what you have in your domain can be applied in a different field for their benefit. So that's possible if you start collaborating with people, understand the entire operations. So maybe as a startup man in practice, we all do that. We find one client doing something, and unless there is no NDA class about that particular process, but that can be used to benefit some other client, you're going to share the knowledge, isn't it? So that is also thinking through the box. So one thing in a place can be applied in different place, or maybe there's excess capacity in one client, and that can be used for another client. That's also thinking through the boxes, isn't it? So thinking through the box can be applied in different ways in different situations. Yes. Any other question? Which means either I was so clear that everyone understood what I am saying, or maybe it went over their head. So I assume that the presentation was good and everyone understood everything I said. How can you approach a problem creatively while still working within the rules and limitations? Yes, see, it depends on what you are working on. If I have to give an example, you may have a resource constraint. For example, if a resource is actually a constraint, you can't really do much about it. Then you will find ways and ways and means of using things what is available to increase the productivity. Now, the best example for this question is the Mangalyaan, because there's a resource limitation. Resource is always a constraint there actually, but they have to work within that resource constraint. They cannot demand that they want the best of this product. So they have to innovate what is locally available that can be better, utilized and still achieve the objective. So in fact, the process itself was innovative. They have to use the slingshot approach rather than going direct because of the limitations that they have faced. So it depends on the situations you are in. It depends on the limitations that you are facing in. Creativity, most of the Indian, if you see Jugaad is a concept. There is a book on Jugaad also. You can actually read through it. Different innovations are done basically to use what is available to the best purpose. I remember a story about Japanese manufacturing where American, they went for a inspection in a Japanese manufacturing. They were trying to compare, and as they were approaching the end, they found that there is no separate quality control. They don't have a separate setup for quality control. And when they asked that, how do you segregate between what is good and what is bad? Because if you don't have that control, you may end up. So what the answer they got is one, is that quality control is done before the production, not after the production. Two, they had some specific, they had some fan or something towards the end of the process. So whichever part that is coming through, which is of inferior quality, that flies off. And then the same for the same thing, the American company has invested probably millions of dollars, but Japanese company has just put a fan. So this is one example I want to give, like how you can think of a simple solution for probably a problem that's may appear like complex. You have to only think through. What is the second question? How can collaboration within our existing team create unexpected solutions? Within the existing team, when I say collaboration within existing team, I assume that you're talking about your own the organization, not within the accounts department. So, for example, so you're talking about, so if accounts department is collaborating with the sales department, for example, probably or a service department, you will find ways and means of doing things for the benefit of customers. Sometimes that can actually enhance the company's value, enhance the benefit to the customer, and thus the trust is increased. I can think of one solution which we did in one of the organizations where I worked. We were we used to have a regular meeting with the service team, and one of the major revenue source was maintenance services. So there was a particular period of time where the maintenance contract were all signed, and we were all invoicing at a particular point of time in the month. So when we were discussing it, and one of the points that came is customer is asking that why the invoices are coming only in a particular period in the month, why not early? And then we have to reprocess. We had to go back, and then we changed our process where, based on the date of the agreement, the invoice gets generated, not based on a particular period of month where we generally do the batch processing. So instead, we worked back and said, okay, every day this invoice gets generated automatically. So based on the contract date, for example, the contract is entered in the 2nd of a month. By 3rd, the invoice gets generated and goes to the customer. So this again helped the overall company. It also helped us in cash flow. It also helped them to convince to make the customer feel happy that they're getting the invoice and there is no delay in services and all. So this is one aspect. So you don't know what is going to trigger. Once you collaborate, there are umpteen possibilities. It can happen in any place also. What part of our routine or process can be questioned without disputing everything? Yeah, the question dispute is actually disputable, because a dispute happens based on how people perceive things. Now, if the other person is not receptive, every question that you ask becomes a dispute. So this is where communication skills comes into picture. You have to train yourself to appear as if you are not actually questioning that person, but you are questioning the process and trying to understand what we can do better. In fact, the biggest aspect of communication is to make the other person feel that whatever you are saying is for their benefit. So this is where we have to work on our communication. Then the question of dispute becomes question of understanding. We are trying to understand how this works and why this works this way and what else we can do. Instead of saying that this process is wrong, it is not actually giving us any benefit. If we say, why are we doing this process in a particular way? Is there any way we can do it better? Or is there any other reason why this has to be done only like this? Or if you know the answer, if you know that you can do it in a different way, you put across in a way that the other person feels it is for their benefit. Instead of, see, the major challenge comes in every organization is who claims the credit. Moment you put across a point and say this can be done, this will help us in reducing the cost, increase efficiency. For you, from your point of view, you are giving the point for the benefit of the company. But the other person's point of view, you are making accusations that the other person is dumb, he can't think through, they are not able to do what is good for the company. You understand? This is where the dispute stems from. So if you have to communicate it in a way that this is for their benefit, and in fact, you are not doing it for claiming credit, but for helping him or her or that person to improve their performance, and then everything changes. So a dispute is basically from the point of view of the person, how they perceive whatever question you are going to ask. I'm not sure whether I answered the question, but I gave you some solution at least. So let me go to the next question. what part of our routine, okay, that is where you address. What assumptions are we making about your constraints that might not be true? See, that depends on situation to situation. Like, we can't really say that there is the constraint is, is assumption. You have to really ask the question, then only you will know. You have to really sit with the person to understand, is it a real constraint or is it an imaginary constraint? For example, it happens mostly in accounts when for invoicing, for example, if you take, there is always a challenge. The information is not coming on time, so there is always a delay. Now, this can be either a perceived constraint or a real constraint. Perceived constraint in the sense, the person who is working on it may assume that this is a constraint for me because I'm not getting information on time. It can also be a real constraint. The information actually not coming on time. So how you plan your work decides whether it is a constraint or not. So you have to actually sit with the person, sit with the process to understand, is it a real constraint or is it an imaginary constraint? Imaginary constraint can be there because moment you start asking questions, people will immediately go into defensive. They want to ensure that they are not being shown in a bad light. So then they will try to put things as constraints. So then you want to understand each other to understand whether something is really a constraint or something is just an imaginary constraint. How might embracing structure lead to more consistent and scalable innovation? Yes. See, as I said, thinking is a deliberate process. So unless you have a structure for thinking, your thinking will be wavered. You may still have innovation, but that will be like throwing a stone at a tree and expecting a mango to fall. Sometimes it may hit and you get a mango, but if you follow a process, you will be able to exactly plan and get more results. So similarly, thinking also, you have a structure for thinking, and every problem that comes into your hand, you follow the process. The chances that you are going to innovate something or come out with a different result, most of the occasions is going to be true. If I have to give an example, I will say Sachin as an example actually. But Sachin Tendulkar is one person who works through, who practices. He is not dependent on his skill. There is a video of Greg Ian Chappell talking about Sachin Tendulkar, about how he practiced to face Shane Warne. So that is a structured way of handling a situation. So that really helped him to handle Shane Warne in a better way. So similarly, when you have a structure, when you make it a point to follow the structure, you will be able to get the results more often. Without structure, you may get results, but that will be based on luck. Again, one more example if I had to give, I'll give Netflix as an example. See, Netflix came out with the streaming, not by luck. They had hundreds of ideas. They were trying to work through each idea they were implementing and checking which one is going to work. Streaming worked for them. So you have to read, there's a book called That Will Never Work by Mark Randolph, who is one of the co-founders of Netflix. And he says, the process of thinking and continuously coming out with multiple ideas and trying out each idea is what actually made Netflix what it is today. So it is not just a random, just thought through and then got, no, it's a process. They followed the process. They came out with multiple ideas, implemented each idea and tried out. Streaming worked. How can applying rules from one area help solve a problem in another? Yeah, this is a tough question. I'm not able to think an example for it. But again, one rule which is generally applied in every place, if you have to see for success for a sports person, is practice. It doesn't matter which field you are in, they have a structured practice. And whoever has followed the structured practice, they were able to make success. They were able to get success more often. And whoever is not able to do that, so it's this one rule that is applied in different areas. So like that. I'm not able to think any other example for this because it's difficult to come out with example on the go. But yes, one example I can tell is that practice is a rule. If you have to succeed, you have to practice as a rule, and you follow the rule, you're going to succeed, whatever be the area. But time may differ, but yes. What innovations can emerge by combining two familiar tools and ideas within our constraints? See, I can give one example for this. Have you? There is this that the dove. They play the school and all. You play the dove. The ones they make shapes. I don't know what is it. It's called dove. I'm not getting the real name, the correct name of it actually. The one that you use for making different shapes in school kits. This was actually made for a different purpose. They used it to stick. I think it was in early 40s or something, where they have to stick some. There was one particular place where, because of the environment, there was the walls were getting darker, so they had to. They used it to stick white sheets or different sheets on top of the wall or something. There's something like that. There's a story like that. Then the dove was no one thought the dove can be used for anything else. But a school teacher who just came across this particular product realized that this can be used in different place. They used it in school just to try, and then yes, voila, this is actually a fantastic material for kids to learn. So that's how the dove was actually as a product came out. So combining two different tools. I'm not sure about tools, but I'm saying combining different ideas. Similarly, tea bag. Tea bag was actually, the sachet was not came out as sachet. It was actually used by the tea manufacturer initially to send samples. He was expecting people to take out the sample from the bag and then pour in the cup. Instead, they actually dropped the sample as it is in the hot water, and the tea came out well. So it was actually a different thing. So it is a combination. It's a product that was in a different purpose, but used for different purpose. So the innovation is something that can come from anywhere. You don't know how it is going to come, but you have to prepare your mind to see through the possibilities. That's important actually. The familiar tools, I can give one more example. Familiar tools used for different purpose. Innovation is again washing machine used for making lassi. That's actually innovation, isn't it? That's a jugaad, Indian innovation actually. It's a familiar tool. It's always available everywhere, but no one thought it can be used for making lassi. It was used for making lassi at a large scale. So that I think is an example for what can emerge when you combine something that you're already having. I've not answered for two different tools, but I'm saying one different tool that is being used for one purpose. When you use it for different purpose, it solves a different solution. So that's an innovation. That's a jugaad way of innovating. If you couldn't eliminate a problem, how could you work around it creatively? If you have to answer it in a humorous way, you should ask this question to every wife. They know they can't eliminate the husband is a problem in the house. They work around the husband to tackle the household activities and can come out with solutions for the house. Jokes apart, if you couldn't eliminate a problem, yes, there are situations where you will not be able to do anything, but You have to live with situations. You have to work around. For example, that is what we all do with most of the accountants, most of the chartered accountants working in an industry using a software. This is a very common problem. The software has got its limitations. It cannot produce always the results that the way you wanted. What do? You work around actually. Most of us work with Excel many times because the report is available, but not in the way we wanted. So we download the report and then we come out with our own way of giving the report. So that's exactly what we do. You can't change the software because it's going to be costly. The management is not interested in spending money. You want to amend something in the software, again the management says there is no money. What do? You take 2-3 reports, combine, and get the report that you wanted. So that's again the creativity. In a different way. It's a very crude form of creativity, but it's a creativity. How can our constraints become our competitive advantage? Constraints can become competitive advantage. Not always, but it can always, it can be sometimes, yes. It's a very hard question to answer. I have to really think through if I can get an example for it. Constraints actually can help you to innovate. For example, one of the examples I showed is the irrigation, the water, where we use the water bottle and put holes on it, and then the water drops into the garden. So it is actually a constraint in the sense we don't have enough resources to implement irrigation system. What is available is this, so we use it actually. So constraints can be to our advantage. Some that's one thing, but I don't think that really fits your question. I may have to think through this question to see if I can get any example for it. If I get example, probably I can email to someone, and maybe I have to think through this. It's a very good question. I'm not able to come out with any example on the go for this. Constraint again, okay. I can think of one example. Constraint can be our advantage. You can turn the constraint to your advantage, but you have to compensate with something else. Example I want to give is Steffi Graf. If I don't know how many of you know Steffi Graf, the tennis champion. Steffi Graf has a very weak backhand. Her backhand is almost not there. So what she used to compensate by running faster and turn that constraint into her advantage. So she used to face mostly with left hand, forehand, and whenever it is required, she will use the backhand. So the minimal effort is in backhand and most is in forehand. So that is compensated with the agility, the movement. So constraints can become your advantage depending on what else you can use to hide your constraint. Because if you're in a competitive field, your constraint will be used against you by every other person. So it cannot definitely be your advantage. It can be advantage for you to trigger more ideas, how you can solve that. So that with the available resources, how to solve the problem. So that is a creativity that you can get, and that probably can be an advantage over time, not immediately. Yes. I hope I have given some kind of answer to this. I'm not able to think of a perfect example, but Steffi Graf is a good example for the constraint turning into advantage. In most cases, constraints can turn advantage only if you have, if you have strength in some other area, because you have to hide your constraints. Even for example, Virendra Sehwag is another example. Virendra Sehwag doesn't have a great footwork, but his timing is the way he reflects on the deliveries and the timing, which is what is his advantage, and he used it to the best. Another example, if I can think of that, I'm sorry, I'm thinking more examples from the sports arena. Again, Tendulkar is one person who I can quote again. The constraint for Tendulkar, I'll say, like Virat Kohli was getting out for the bowling on the offside balls. Sachin was getting out like that in Australia series once. So what he did in a Sydney Test, he played every ball on the leg side. He left the balls in the offside and he played most of the strokes. In fact, the famous stroke of Sachin, this is cover drive, he avoided playing that actually because he was getting out. So there was a constraint. So he turned it into his advantage by not playing the stroke, playing only in the leg side. So this is one example. I mean, you have to think through what is your constraint and how you can actually avoid that constraint exposed. Constraint will trigger you to come out with different ideas with which you can manage the constraint or overcome the constraint. Yes. I hope I have addressed most of the questions. I'm not seeing any more questions. Do you have any more questions or shall we wait?
No, I don't think so. Any question is there right now. So that we'll go for the vote of thanks. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful webcast on Thinking Through the Box, organized by the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. On behalf of the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, CA Meenakshi Sundaram, for his enlightening session. A wide round of applause and thanks to the organizer Professional Skills Enrichment Committee of the ICAI. Our today's speaker, CA Meenakshi Sundaram, and other stakeholders made the webcast a memorable one. Finally, we'd like to thank all of you present over here and helping us make this webcast a grand success. Thank you one and all. With this, we conclude today's session. Thanks to all.
Thank you, sir.